Hello and welcome. This is Saad Usman. Today I have brought to you a video on Vlookup in which I am going to cover basics to advanced examples. There are around 11 examples covering from basic features to advanced features. So let's start. Here are the topics that we are going to cover, around 11 topics, looking up text from exact match, approximate match, and then multiple conditions, etc. So I'm going to cover these one by one. Let's go into first example. You can download this file from the link below the video. Okay, Vlookup stands for vertical lookup. You normally use Vlookup when you have to look up values from a range of cells. For example, in this case, we have a range of cells, a table in which there are different products, and we have got various information about these products, quantity, sales price, and unit cost, and so on and so forth. So what we are going to do is we are going to fill up this table using Vlookup, and it's a very basic example. So let's see how Vlookup works. So in this video, I'm going to cover basic features of Vlookup, and we are going to look up values in the table column in this table, and we are going to look up the products from the table on the right side, and we are going to return the values of quantity, sales price, unit cost, and unit profit. So let's see Vlookup, and when we write VL, this Excel senses that we are trying to write Vlookup, and we don't need to type the entire word. We just press tab, so it will just come inside the formula. So Vlookup, and the lookup value, the first part of the syntax is the lookup value, which is to the left of the current cell, the product Juliet. In cell A17, what I'm going to do is I'm going to press F4 key to lock this, and I'm going to press F4 again and again to make sure that the only column is locked, not the row, because I have to copy this formula Vlookup from this column to this column to this column and finally to unit profit. So I don't want this product to change. However, when I would copy the formula from top to down, I want the row to change. So that's why I'm going to keep the row as variable and column as fixed. And table array is basically this portion, and I'm going to make sure that the first column of the table has my lookup value, which is the products. I'm going to press F4 key again to lock the entire coordinates of the table, and my lookup value is in the I need to provide the column index number to Vlookup formula. The column index number is the column number in which my answer lies. My answer lies, I'm looking up quantity here. My answer lies in the second column of the table. So I'm going to put 2 here, and the last argument requires a true or a false, that is an approximate match or an exact match. To keep the thing simple, I would just say that whenever we are looking up text values, we always want to go for an exact match. I exactly want to see where I can find Juliet in the table. So I will select false and press tab. I can also write a 0 here in the formula, which is equivalent to false. Bracket close, enter, we get a value of 19. So if I copy the formula from left to right, and in this case the formula is again looking up the quantity, but in this case we want to look up the sales price, and sales price is in the third column. So third column, we get the sales price of Juliet 2265 from the third column, and if I just drag it on the right side and manually change the column index number from 3 to 4 and from 4 and 3 to 5, we'll get the right answers for the product Juliet. We just need to copy this down, and we will get the answer for Lima as well. In this example, I have just manually put the column index number. In the coming examples, we are going to automate this as well. So we get this value of Lima, the entire quantity, sales price, unit cost, and unit profit using Vlookup, and you can imagine we can add different products here and get the same result. For example, if I copy this entire row here and I change this to say golf, I will get the result of golf. So this is a dynamic formula and it's widely used. What will happen if my lookup value has an error, spelling mistake? So what will happen? In this case, if I copy the formula from here to here, my answer returns an error because it cannot find a fox as a product in the table because the table has foxtrot, not fox. So in this case, what we have to do, we need to handle the error. Error handling, there are a bunch of ways of handling errors in Excel. What we are going to do is I would like to see a 0 instead of an error, because if an error comes, my further calculations on that cell becomes problematic. It will also return an error. So I would like to make sure that if there is an error, it should return an alternate text or a value which I can provide. For this purpose, I'm going to use another formula and in combination with Vlookup, which is if error. If error, what if error does? If error has just two arguments, I have to give it an expression or a value. If error will evaluate that value, and if that value is an error, then I have to provide what to replace it with. If it is an error, I should replace it with some other thing, and I have to tell Excel what should be the alternate text or value. So in this case, if error will evaluate this entire Vlookup formula. If I select this part of the formula and press F9, you will see that it's an error. Control Z, and then after comma I can provide a text. Let's say error value and bracket close. So you can see that the Vlookup formula along with if error returns an error value. However, I can replace it with a 0 as well. So whenever we want to put text values inside a formula, we always use double quotes, but for numbers we can just type in numbers. So in case of errors, I would like to see a 0 here, so I get a 0. And if I copy the formula, right side, Control R, and I need to change the column numbers here, 3, 4, and finally 5. So let's see, if I type foxtrot, I get the correct answer, and say foxtrot 1, I get a 0, which is perfect. Copy the formula down, hotel with the double L at the end, error, single L, correct values. So this way we can handle errors inside of a Vlookup formula. Going to the next example. In this next example, what we have done is we would like to do something to avoid the spelling mistakes in the lookup values. So whenever I'm going to type, I can write, instead of ALFA, I can write alpha, or I don't know, maybe Indiana. A chance of risk is always there. So instead of typing the lookup values ourselves, what we can do, we can select the lookup values from a drop down list. So for that purpose, what we're going to do is in the cell, let's delete this first, and then in the cell we'll create a drop down list. We go to data, and in data we go to data validation, and in data validation, by default Excel allows any value that can be entered in the cell. That's why it says allow any value. But we don't want any value here, we want a list from which we will select the value ourselves. So we will see and select this list option here, and in source we are going to just select the list of products from a table and click OK. And when I click OK, there's a drop down menu coming up, and I can select a drop down from here. I can just copy the formula down, and I can select any other product as well. And now we can copy the formula from top, and there will not be any risk of error inside this because of the typing mistakes. Okay, right. So moving on to the next topic, Vlookup with the name range. So Excel has a peculiar feature in which we can give names to the entire range of cells, an individual cell or a bunch of cells. You see, every cell in Excel has an address. Like this cell is H15 and this cell is H26. But what we can do is we can give these ranges a name. So I would like to give the entire table a name, and I will call it a Vlookup table. So for that purpose, there are multiple ways of assigning names. The most obvious one is this. We go to formulas, name manager, new. I've already selected this range of cells, I will just type the name Vlookup underscore table. I can also modify the range, but I am okay with the current selection, so I will hit OK. And in this case, a Vlookup table is appearing as a name, and this name is also visible in the name box. We click somewhere else and see the drop down from the name box. We can see the Vlookup table here. Okay, now we are going to apply name ranges in a formula. We will do a Vlookup. Lookup value is Bravo in cell A38. I'm going to log the column here, and I will refer to the table by the name of the table. My name of my table is Vlookup table. So when I press VL, I see both the formula of Vlookup and the Vlookup tables. I'll select Vlookup table and press tab to select it, and you can see the entire table is selected. And after that, I'll have to provide the column index number. In this case, we can say 2, and I'm gonna take an exact match. So we get the same answer. In this case, we can do one more thing here. If you want to automate a little bit the column index numbers, some people they do is in a large worksheet where they have a very big lookup table, what they do is they provide a column numbers on the top like this. You can either type it or you can select it. Let's say we can use a formula columns. Columns, and this cell H40 to H40, and I'm going to lock the first this, copy the formula right. So what is it going to do? The columns formula basically counts the number of columns in the selection. So I've kept the selection variable. The first part of the selection is fixed, the column is fixed, and the second part is variable. So when I've copied the formula to the right, it extends the range. So when it extends the range, the number of columns are added. So we can use this formula to bring in the column index numbers. So instead of typing a manual 2 here, what I'm going to do is I'm going to refer this column number 2 here, and I will log this cell. I will log the row number of this cell. Okay, so we get this column number here, and we get the same answer if we just copy to the right. Perfect, bingo. And down, we can use Ctrl D to copy the formulas down, so it works perfectly well. So we don't need to type in the column index number ourselves. A further better way to look up column number is another by using a formula called match. The match formula, what it does is it looks up a value. It looks up a value in an array of cells, a range of cells, and it returns the relative positioning or the number sequence of that entry in the range of cells. For example, if I want to look up, let's say, quantity in the range of cells given as here. Okay, I'll log this, and I'm looking at an exact match. So I will select a 0, just like Vlookup, and the quantity match formula gives me an answer of 2, which means the quantity is appearing in the second column or second number of this range. So we can use this match formula inside of Vlookup and get our column index number. So we will use Vlookup, let's say A45, lock it up. We will use a table name of Vlookup table, and instead of typing a manual number for column index number, we will use a match formula, and we will look up B44, which is in the quantity, and I'm going to lock the row here, and I will look up this in the headings. Okay, let me go back to headings, and I will lock this heading so that it doesn't move anywhere, and comma 0 for an exact match. So this match formula will give me again the value of 2. Okay, and finally I'm going to select false or an exact match, and there you go, you get the answer. Control R, Control D. So you can see we have used the name range as well as the column index number For column index number, we have used the formula of match. So it's a dynamic VLOOKUP formula in which the column index numbers are automatically looked up based on the lookup value. Okay, moving on to the next example. This example of VLOOKUP is approximate match. Whenever we are looking up numbers, the numbers may not be exactly same as in the table. For example, we have a list of salespersons alpha to Foxtrot and sales values achieved by each one of them. And what we are going to do is we are going to return or find out the bonus that they have earned based on the sales achieved. So we are going to look up this value 151 in this table, and we will return a bonus percentage from this column over here, and then we will calculate the bonus amount value. So in this case, we are going to apply VLOOKUP. Let me type it correctly. VLOOKUP. The lookup value is 151 C11. I'm going to log the column number here, and I'm going to refer to my range of cells as a lookup table, and I will log this up. It is important to note that the Excel will only use the values in the left column. This second column is useless for the purpose of VLOOKUP. So nevertheless, we have taken inside of the lookup table, comma, and then we are going to provide the column index number. In this case, my answer lies in the third column, so I'm going to type in 3. And if I press for a moment, if I press 0 to get an exact match, let's see what happens. I get a 2.5%, which is exactly here in this table. What if I don't get a 2.5? What if I don't have an exact value appearing in the lookup table? Let's copy the formula down. So in 165, you can see the 165 lies somewhere in between these two ranges, in this range. So the answer is returns an error. So VLOOKUP only, exact match only works if an exact value is available in the lookup table. So instead of an exact match, what we're going to do is we are going to use an approximate match. For that, we can either put in true, or we can put a value of 1 in the formula, which is equivalent. So we get a 2.5%, and if we copy it downwards, so we get 2.5, and this is an error. So why is this error coming from? I'll explain in a minute. And we get the values here. So we can see, for example, if we verify the first value 151 is here, and we get a 2.5%, works perfectly well. Once, for example, the last cell 472, the value lies here in this cell, in this range, we get a 4%. Let's analyze this problem. Excel returns an error even if we are using an approximate match. So let's try and get the basis of this error. There are 4 conditions when we use lookup value and use an approximate match. Either the value we are looking up is exactly there in the table. For example, let's put in 251 here, and not exact value, let's say 275. Higher than maximum value, let's put in 555, and lower than the minimum value, let's say 55. Let's apply VLOOKUP in each of these cases and see what the result is. VLOOKUP, this value 251, which is an exact value appearing in the lookup table, and I get answer. I can get my answer from the third column. Use approximate match. Answer is, let's format it to percentage. We get 3%. And if we don't have a value exactly appearing in the lookup table, even then I'm going to get an answer, because what Excel does is Excel see a value and it asks the question whether this value is greater than the first value of the table. The answer is yes. Then it goes to the next line. Is this value 251 greater than this value? The answer is yes. It goes to the next line. Is this value 275 greater than this value 251? The answer is yes. It goes to the next value. Again the same question, but now the answer is no. So Excel goes back to this line, the previous one, and then returns this value of 3%, which is over here. This is how Excel VLOOKUP approximate match works. And following the same logic, if we copy the formula down, we get a 4%. The VLOOKUP asks whether this value is greater than this value. The answer is yes. it goes up, or rather to the next level. It cannot find anything. So it goes back to the previous level and returns this value from the table. In this last example, the lookup value is minimum, lower than the minimum value in the table. If we copy the formula down, we get an error. So following the same logic, Excel asks if this value 55 is greater than this value of 101. The answer is no. In this case, Excel would like to go back to the previous level. It cannot find anything over here. That's why it returns an error. So in Vlookup, approximate match, you can see Excel will return, or the formula will return any value except for the minimum value, except for the values that are lower than the minimum value in the table. An important thing to note is that the lookup table has to be arranged in an ascending order. If it is not in ascending order, the answer from Vlookup will not be correct. Okay, let's do some error handling here, and we can use an if error like in the previous example and return replace the error value with a 0, and we copy it in the entire range of cells. And now we can calculate the bonus amount, which is simply a product of sales and the bonus percentage. I'm going to double click this so we get the bonus values here. In this case, the bonus amount can be calculated directly. Instead of using two cells, we are going to use just one cell to calculate the bonus amount. What we are going to do is we are going to create a complex formula. Vlookup 151 in this range of cells, lock it up, comma 3 for third column of index number, 1 for approximate match, and in this case I'm going to use if error also, if error, comma 0. We are going to replace error values with a 0, and finally we are going to multiply this answer with my sales achieved to get this bonus amount. So we get the same value, and if you drag it down, double click it, we get the same answer. Now in this case we are using Vlookup and if error in a single formula, and also multiplying the answer with the sales value to get the bonus amount. Let's go to the third example. The third example is one of an advanced sort of example. In this case, Vlookup has to look up values from two columns. We have a table in which city initials or short forms are there, and we have a name of persons here and sales values. What we're going to do is we are going to look up the combination of city and name and get the answer. So Karachi and Ahmed is Karachi is KHI is Karachi. Karachi and Ahmed is the sales value is 12,900. So we have to find the value, get a result of 12,900 over here. So there are two ways of doing this. One way is to make use of a helper column. We call it helper column, and I'm going to use a formula called Concat, in which I'm going to combine these two texts together. So I'm going to use Concat cell I9, and then I'm going to add a delimiter, a pipe, and the name value, bracket close. So I get Islamabad, pipe, this vertical line is called a pipe, and Ahmed. So we get this helper column here, and now we are going to use Vlookup in this cell. We're going to Vlookup city, and again here I'm going to use ampersand to another way of combining text. Ampersand within inverted commas or double quotes, pipe, again ampersand, value from C9, which is name, and in this case my lookup table starts from column H instead of column I. Now there are 4 columns here. I'm going to log this range, and my lookup column index number is column 4, and I'm going to use an exact match here. There you go, exactly 12,900, and if I double click it, 14,300. We can change the values here. We can change, let's Karachi, change it to Lahore, and we get Lahore and Ahmed. So we can see Lahore and Ahmed, we get the answer of 14,700, which is perfectly well. Now going to the next example, we are going to use some wildcards. In this case, what we have in the table, we have the names of certain students. I have taken names of great cricket legends from across the world as the students, and their scores in different subjects. So what we're going to do is we are going to look up values based on incomplete information. Let's say Wasim. Wasim is the first name of Wasim Akram. Wasim Akram is appearing in this table as Wasim Akram. But if we are going to apply VLOOKUP without anything additional, the VLOOKUP will give me an error because it will not be able to find Wasim in the table. Let's apply VLOOKUP A21. Let's log the column number here. Apply this VLOOKUP on this range of cells. Lock it up by pressing F4 key, and my column index number, I am going to use a match function here. Maths, which is my subject in cell B20. I'm going to lock the row here, and I'm going to look up the row, the subject in this range of cells. Lock it also by pressing F4 and (0) for an exact match. So this match function will give me the column index number, just like 2, which worked fine. Control Z, and I am going to get the result using an exact match. So use false the formula, we get an error because VLOOKUP cannot find Wasim in this range of cells because there's Wasim Akram. If I change it to Wasim Akram, the answer is fine, otherwise the answer is wrong. But we know for a fact that Wasim Akram, we can use first name like Adam Gilchrist. Adam Gilchrist is also in the list, and if we copy the formula down, we will again get an error because Adam is not there in the table alone. So what we are going to do is we are going to use some wildcards to solve this problem. What are wildcards? Let's take a help from examples above. Wildcards are different special characters which can be used in a formula, and they have specific meaning. For example, a question mark. A question mark is a wildcard which means any one character. Any one character means a single character, whether it's a capital case or a small case, or any number also. Two question marks means any two characters. Asterisk means any number of characters. For example, in apple, mango, x99, whatever, any number of characters. If you want to refer to in a formula that to any number of characters in a formula, whether numbers or text, we can use asterisk. Let's say an example. Let's see an example. Asterisk st, which means anything which ends with an s and t, like trust, best. So we can have anything before st and it will return this value. Similarly, B asterisk, anything which starts with B, bath, blog, boy, best. It doesn't matter whether the case, this is not case sensitive. It will just take whatever is after B. Similarly, question mark and asterisk, at least one character should be there. One character should be there means for question mark there has to be one character. For asterisk, it may or may not return any value after the one character. Okay, let's you can go through this later on while practicing. I'm going to apply some wildcards here to get my result. So in this case, what we're going to do is we are going to look up Wasim, and after Wasim we want to look up anything which comes after Wasim. Let's say, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to change the lookup value here, A21, and I'm going to combine A21 with an asterisk. With an asterisk, and asterisk is in double quotes. And if I hit enter, I'll get the answer 84, which is here. If I copy the formula down, let me try again, and across, I get the correct answers. Let's apply to one more example. Let's say type Imran, we get the answer for Imran Khan, and let's type Brian, we get the value for Brian Lara. Now we can also look up values based on surname. So to save time, I'm going to copy this from here and I'm going to change the lookup value. In this case, the asterisk should not come after the text, but should come before the text. So I'm going to cut it, delete the ampersand sign, paste the asterisk here and then join it with the ampersand with the last name appearing in cell A27 and enter. You get the answer. Mr. Khan is Imran Khan. Maths mark 61. Sobers, so Gary Sobers 61, saying wow, yeah, 61. And we can use this to copy to the right. We get the answers. So we can use VLOOKUP based on the first name, on the last names. Can we do it on based on incomplete name? Let's say if we have a text field of only 4 characters, Warren and Dent. So we are talking about Shane Warne and Sachin Tendulkar. So see if we can look up any part of the text from the lookup table. So save time. I am going to copy from above and paste it here. Since we only have to change the middle portion, the lookup value here. So what we are going to do here is we are going to tell VLOOKUP that it has to look up the exact words from the text on the left, and any number of text and words can come before it, and any number of text and characters can come after it. So I'm going to use this asterisk, and I'm going to apply this asterisk with an ampersand after the text as well. So we basically what we are saying is to look up this warn, and before that anything can come, and after that anything can come. Let's use it. Control D, Control R. So we get the answer here. Okay, now some fuzzy logics using wildcards. For example, in this specific case, V asterisk R asterisk, what does it mean? V asterisk R asterisk is Vivian Richards. So what we are telling Excel is it's V, a number name starts with a V and something comes after that, and then there's a space here, and there's a space, and then the next name, the surname, starts with an R, and anything can come after R as well. So let's apply that logic. And in this case, the asterisks are already typed in the cell itself, so we don't have to use asterisk in the formula. Okay, I'm gonna use formula from top, and I'm going to use just the cell reference here and do away with the wildcards in the formula. I'm going to refer A39. I get my answer if I copy to the right. Okay, student name is not here, so let me, okay, first of all let me just get the lookup value from top to this range of cells so that we get the right lookup values. Okay, now you can see Vivian Richards is the student name here, so I'm getting the student name in the last column also. Let's copy this one step down. So we are saying anything can, the name can start with anything, then there's a space, and then AK. So probably I'm talking about Wasim Akram. Yeah, Wasim Akram. You can see here, and here asterisk, space, asterisk, and KAR. So what would it look like? KAR is Tendulkar. So the name ends with Kar, and anything can come in, can come before. So let's copy it down. Sachin Tendulkar. And the last example is very interesting. It only says that the first name has only 3 characters, and then there is a space, and anything can come after that. So but we just need to make sure that the first name has 3 characters. So in this case, I can see Don Bradman coming up, and Viv Richards, and Ian Botham. So in this case, Excel will go from top to bottom, and whenever it finds a match, it will stop it there. So in this case, it will find Don Bradman here. Let's see. So I'm going to use this entire row and Control D. You see Don Bradman. So Don has 3 letters, and then anything can come after that. And the next example of wildcards is this. What we can do, and now in this range of cells, for example, there's a certain remark who's there, and remark is by Alpha, or right, correct spelling, Alpha, Bravo, Charlie, and Delta. So my question is, if what will I want to get the remark where the remark ends with a question mark. So how can I refer question mark literally in VLOOKUP formula? When a question mark refers to a number of cells, how can we refer it exactly or literally in the formula itself? So for that purpose, we have to do some workaround. Let's see, VLOOKUP, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to use an asterisk anything can start with the lookup value can start with anything, and after asterisk, okay, I'm going to use a character like this, which is a tilde. Tilde is where it appears on the just below the escape key in your keyboard and next to the 1 left of the number 1. So this is called tilde. Tilde means now whatever comes to the right, use it literally in the formula. So this, in this case, I'm going to use a question mark, and then I'm going to apply this in this range of cells, lock it up, second column where my answer lies, and an exact match. My answer is alpha. So you can see the first asterisk tells me to look up anything on the left side. Lookup value has any can have anything on the left, but after tilde we have a question mark, so it has to end with a question mark at the end. So the tilde can be used to have a literal meaning of the wildcards in the formula. If we now again, what if we want to refer tilde itself? Let's copy it down and asterisk, and in tilde I, instead of using a question mark, tilde, another tilde. Another tilde will mean the first tilde means to look up whatever is coming on the right of tilde as a literal value. So next tilde is the literal value which is going to be used in the formula. And finally at the end I can because in my case the tilde is not at the end of the cell of the range of the text, something also comes after it, so I'm going to repeat my asterisk after it. Let's see. Bravo. Yeah, we can see this. What if we want to refer an asterisk here? So in this case I'm going to copy the formula from top, and in asterisk we can mention tilde with an asterisk, right? So we don't need this first asterisk, so we need to find out, okay, asterisk in this case is in the middle of the text, so we need to have an asterisk in the beginning and an asterisk at the end. We get the answer Charlie. What if we don't give asterisk at the end? Let's see. We get delta, because in this case the asterisk is at the end of this. So if we have asterisk in the middle of the text, we have to give asterisk in the beginning, tilde, an asterisk, and then again asterisk, and this last asterisk means whatever comes after this, the first asterisk, a literal asterisk, anything can come after that. And the last example, if we have an asterisk at the end only, so we are going to use asterisk and this. We can say the first asterisk says anything can come before, and but in the last there has to be a literal asterisk in the text and the lookup value, so we get the answer delta. So this is an interesting example of Vlookup where we can use wildcards literally and as well as for the purpose of our lookups. We have further examples of Vlookup, but I'm going to make another video for that. So keep on watching. I hope you enjoyed the video, and see you again in the next video.